everybody? It is 10:01 p.m. Central Time on Friday, November 4th, 2016. And hope you guys are doing good. Welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream. I am your host, Dutchsinse. Here on the stream, and we daily recap the seismic events that strike around the world. If you're new here, guys, we do this on a semi-daily basis where we issue forecasts for areas to watch. And I would just like to get into the earthquakes that struck since last night. And for my international viewers, everybody over on the Dutchsinse Reloaded International Terremoto 3D, welcome in as well. To everybody in the chat room. Also, guys, thank you for taking your time out of your weekend to be here. I hope you're having a good weekend. And let's just kick it off with, let's look at Italy and see what struck since last night. Now, last night we were talking about the 4.8 or the 5.4, whichever you want to go with, that struck since last night. Now, we'll take that off the map and show you what struck throughout today. Now, you have to add about 15 more earthquakes or maybe even 20 earthquakes to this stack. This is showing the last 50 earthquakes around the planet. And since what happened today and elsewhere is kind of robbed some of the earthquakes off the feed. But Italy struck multiple times today, but only by a topping out at 3.5. So, what did I talk about last night? I said ideally we would see another swarm breakout that's similar in size to what struck last night, and that would alleviate our pressure for the area. I got on at about 3 o'clock Central Time today and told everybody before they went to bed in Italy last night, I said, sleep well, guys, because you'll get till tomorrow morning and we should be fanning out on this earthquake activity. Now, what's going on here, guys? Pressure has finally started to seep out from Italy itself and go to the north. And my people up in Holland, in Netherlands, were struck right at the Netherlands, Belgium, German border region inside Germany, but just near the Dutch border, with a 2.8 earthquake. Very rare, saw it there. We talked about my people, we talked about Holland, Netherlands, and now you guys got a very rare 2.8. Well, what's significant about a 2.8 in Holland? Well, there was a 2.8 in the English Channel no more than 4 or 5 days ago. Also a 2.8 down here at the Spain-France border. And a 2.8 down here at Portugal, where Portugal goes into the Canary Islands. That's a lot of 2.8s, isn't it? Well, yesterday, in addition to the 2.8s, we now have it confirmed. That 5.5 that did strike in Poland, it didn't make it onto the feeds for some reason or another, detected by multiple stations. So the 5.5 that struck up in Poland, result of the 6.0 over here in China. Now, Siberia was struck as well today by a small earthquake, kind of rare to see that. But the 6.0 in China transferred to the west-northwest and hit Poland. That's good news for the people in Italy. If it would have transferred to the south, it would have come right along the plate boundary to the south and hit Italy with a 5.5. Now, we were looking for a 5.5 by yesterday, and by last night, again, I was reporting on that hidden 5.5 in Poland. Well, today, what happened today? The swarm in Italy topped out at 3.5. A swarm of 2s broke out across Turkey, and a 4.3 struck here in Bosnia. Technically, I think that's Slovenia. Or no, I'm sorry, Albania. My bad. Sorry, guys. Albania, south of Montenegro. So, what does that mean? Well, that 4.3 is the result, the leftover pressure, the last of the pressure that was coming across. Most of it went up to Poland. So the remnants, or the lower portion of that, transferred down along the southern plate boundary and came in and caused a 4.3, again, south of Bosnia. So last night, I told people in Italy, going into tomorrow, and this would be going throughout the day today, I suppose, in Italy, now that they're 7 hours ahead of us, we're going into the early morning hours, right around dawn. So again, around for the rest of the day here, the only threat we have currently is for this 4.3 to have a residual effect onto the fault zone here and cause an additional similar sized earthquake to the 4.3. But I'm more leaning towards the swarm since the swarm is dissipating that pressure and allowing the pressure to now flow across Europe, causing 2.8s up to the north. And you may remember the 4.2 out here in between England and Scandinavia a day ago, and the earthquake 4.2 up here at the mid-Atlantic ridge between Svalbard and Iceland. So all that being said, guys, let me go ahead and turn on display capture now so that you can see my mouse, and I'll show you the spots that we're watching going into tomorrow for the next day. So we have the 4.3 here, and we have a swarm that struck. You notice anything over here to the east? Well, we only have a 4.6 and a 3.6 back in Siberia and western China. A single 3.1 in the Caspian Sea, north of Iran. Well, if you add those together, 4.6, 3.6, and a 3.1, it takes us basically to a 4.38. Okay? Now, if you add that in, the 4.3, well, look what's already struck there. So the 4.6 technically struck first, then the 4.3, but in the same time, the 3's kind of filled that out. So it's kind of a transfer of pressure already has occurred off that earthquake there. So there's no new round of incoming pressure right now, today, to justify a serious watch for any kind of noteworthy earthquake. Now you hope I'm right. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, everybody's going to be sitting there thinking it's going to be all good, and then they'll get hit. So it's really, again, guys, I take this serious. If I'm telling you that it's calming down right now, it is. You can see it. So it's calming down right now, but the bad news now, I told you about this last night, the new deep earthquakes here in the West Pacific. And I told you last night that by today, I'd be reporting on shallower, larger earthquakes, and I named out the middle point. You guys remember this? East of Papua New Guinea in my update last night. Talked about that, and look what got struck. Again, guys, the middle point got struck. Then our catcher's mitt position down here in New Zealand got struck, 4.7. Look at all the 4.7s, by the way. 4.7 in New Zealand, 4.7 in Indonesia going into Philippines, 4.7 on the Izu Trench near Guam. I mean, that's a lot of 4.7s to spread out. Why did that happen? We'll take a look at it. Deep 4.5s. So deep 4.5s leading to shallower, larger earthquakes, all pretty much at the same depth near the surface. So the deep earthquakes are indeed pushing up as expected and pressing outwards. And like I told you, it would start creeping over. And we mentioned Sumatra, Indonesia last night, and we talked about Sinabung and all that good stuff the night before. Well, here it is. Now Indonesia has been struck equidistantly spaced out from these deep earthquakes going over to the west. And it's going to carry on to the west, and within 48 hours, at the most 72, but more like 48 hours, we should be reporting about an increased number of earthquakes creeping back in here, back into Turkey and Greece, which will then re-elevate things, and you'll see it just go from 2s and 3s to 3s and 4s, and maybe even higher. So you have 48 hours to prepare for this new round of pressure coming in. And it looks like it's a pretty big doozy, guys. It looks like this one's actually going to press across and probably maintain a lot of its momentum, because it looks like the 5s that we were talking about looking for yesterday have indeed spread out. Okay, so again, within 2 days from now, what is today, Friday? So Saturday, Sunday, going into by Sunday night, I should be reporting to you that we're back on watch in Italy. I wish I had better news for you. Now, also, take a look at the last 72 hours of earthquakes. See how the 4.3s creep right into Italy? See that? See how they're connected? Literally almost equidistantly spaced. That's just another sign of how the pressure does creep into Italy. And, again, it held true this week. Past several days, you can see it. So it's spreading out again now, and that's what we don't want to see, unfortunately. Like I said last night, anytime this pressure comes up from down below, it displaces the whole West Pacific plate, which then compensates around the entire planet. Now, we issued a warning, a 72-hour watch for the coast of Japan. Today is 48 hours with no earthquake activity above 4.0. We go back 4 to 5 days. Now check this out, guys. I'm going back, let's see. This is 4 days. Here's 4 days. Okay, so when you take a look at the map, In 4 days' time, nothing over 4.0 across all of Japan, Taiwan, and northern Philippines, or the Izu Ridge. Now that's abnormal, like beyond abnormal. Normally, one day we would see a couple 4s. Within 2 to 3 days, we'd see several 5s. Just span out across the whole area. You would expect to see that kind of pressure transfer and release along those zones. But nothing. Absolutely nothing. The area next to Kamchatka, Russia, erupting. Shivulek and Kluchetskoy volcanoes up in Kamchatka, erupting. Down to the south, Dukono, also erupting. Over to the west, Sinabung, also erupting. Each one has 5s right next to it, right? Oh, also the 5.0 right in the middle, Bagana volcano again, erupting. So, I mean, every spot where we have our shallow upwelling pressure, we're also seeing a volcanic eruption. But the middle point here, it's still the spot we were watching. Even though we have a 5.4 to the north now and a 4.7 to the south, if you still trace the middle point between these two spots, it takes us back down into the exact same location we warned, even when the earthquakes were completely lacking and we were measuring from all the way down here, back around and up. It still took us to that central point. So the central point's been halved, but it stayed the same, which is proof that it's halving inside of itself. One half and then the other, and then those are halved, and it's taken us down to a central point. Now, I was looking for a 5.8 to strike here, and I'm going to keep it at 5.8. Why? Well, look at the 5s to the south. Look at the 5.4 to the north. If we add the 5.4 plus 4 different 5s to the south, that takes us again to 5.8. It takes 10 5s to equal 1 6, so it goes up by 0.1 every 5 you add in. Okay? So, again, that's still the magnitude is spot on too. So, we're still watching for another day. By tomorrow night, I should have a report on this central portion of Japan showing some significant size movement after 4 or 5 days of silence. And if I'm wrong, if I'm 1 magnitude off, it could go up to mid-range 6 instead of instead of a 5.8. If I'm 1 magnitude off, that goes up to 6.8. I don't think it's going to be less. I don't think it's going to be a 4.8. If I'm 1 magnitude less, it'll be a 4.8. It'll still be near a 5. But I'm looking for an upper 5. Again, why? We're adding all the 5s together. That takes us to 5.8. All right? Now, over in the United States, Central America, South America, you may not have caught it, guys, but a 6.4 earthquake struck about 150 miles south of Copihu volcano, right at the Argentina-Chile border. Now, you remember last night I told you that those earthquakes to the north, this cluster of 5s, would add up most likely to a 6.5 and strike down here at the South Sandwich Islands, right? I mean, that's verbatim, that's what I told you to watch. Well, obviously, that's a miss. Huge earthquake miss, but magnitude spot on. Well, what happened? Well, our deep earthquakes crept down as expected and caused a 6.5. It didn't transfer down all the way underneath the plate. Instead, we see a shallow, large earthquake striking right next to the group of volcanoes. Well, maybe, the magma chambers go far down. Probably, again, in my estimation, there's only one reason why it wouldn't move all the way down to the South Sandwich Islands, and that's because it's getting caught at one of the volcanic magma chambers there. Regardless, there it is, 6.5, struck down in an unpopulated area in the mountain range where I don't think there was no damage and no injuries. And if you zoom in on the area on Google Earth, it literally is a deserted mountain range for 100 miles in all directions. But volcanoes right there. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and show it to you here. Okay, so let's get the coordinates on this. And it's important to look these things up. I know it gets a little tedious to look a lot of the earthquakes up, but we can look up the big one, right? You guys should see what it's right next to. Now, I mentioned Copihu volcano being 100 miles away. Well, why does that matter? Well, it's the one that's erupting. Just today, it sent off a new volcanic ash advisory and steam phreatic eruption. So, we'll zoom in, take a look at it. Now look where the 6 struck right on the flanks of. And I mean just right on the flanks of. A volcano called Planchen Pretora. Planchen Pretora is an elongated complex volcano along the Chile-Argentina border with several overlapping calderas. Activity began in the Pleistocene with construction of the basaltic, andesitic, and dacitic volcane Azufre, followed by formation of basaltic, andesite, and volcanic planchon 6 kilometers to the north. About 11,500 years ago, planchon collapse, forming the massive Rio Tenos debris avalanche, which traveled 95 kilometers to reach Chile's Central Valley. Subsequently, Volcano Planchon II was formed, the youngest volcano. Let's see, I'm not going to read it all to you. Active in historical time, and lava flows were erupted in 1837 and 1937, 100 years apart. Well, we're getting close to 2037. Maybe it'll erupt in the next few years. Well, anyways, we have a large earthquake striking right on the flanks, and a large flow, which I guess you can see that here, 95 kilometers, went down the gorge and ravine out here into the Chilean Valley, which is right there. Okay, so anyways, earthquake striking right along there. Huge swarm right next to the volcano. Is it getting ready to erupt? I don't know. There aren't any reports on it. None at all. That being said, speaking of no reports at all, check it out, guys. In Central America, Colima went silent. No mid-Mexico volcanic eruptions today. Several down to the south, none up to the north, which means Mexico. Mexico is now back in the mix, finally, for an earthquake. It's been a while, hasn't it, guys? So we're going to have to watch in central Mexico. Where? Well, guys, we have to go north of Guatemala. Why in Guatemala? Well, Santa Guido volcano erupted. I think that's how you pronounce it. Let's see. Let's go check it here. Yeah, Santiaguido. Santiaguido in Guatemala erupted today with a volcanic ash advisory, potential ongoing volcanic ash emissions. All right, well, where's Guatemala? It's just south of Mexico. Now, you guys remember I warned for an earthquake to strike here in South Mexico into Guatemala. Well, what happened instead? Santa Guido blew. I mean, we'll take it. There it is. Santa Guido sends off a volcanic blast after a little while of silence. But the area to the north has gone silent, which means the area in between the volcanic blast at Santa Guido and the area in Southern California, and of course the halfway point right along the coast, goes into the south portion of Gulf of California, right off the coast of Mexico, and it's going to be a combined total of the volcanic blast to the south and the 2s and 3s to the north. Well, the volcanic blast to the south itself adds up to a 5. We've talked about this before. Relatively speaking, a volcanic blast, I believe, is equal to about a 5.0 earthquake, seismically speaking, due to the hundreds of 2s, 1s, 0s that strike in there, thousands actually, that add up to the total of about a 5.0 earthquake. All right, and then the deformation along the fault zones nearby is because of the deflation and inflation that occurs when the eruption. But regardless, 5 to the south, swarm of 2s and 3s to the north adds up to a single 4, so we take it to 5.1. Why? Because it takes 10 4s to equal 1 5. Okay, so just under the 5.1-ish range to be striking Gulf of California in the next, and let's put a 72-hour watch on that. I know people, once they see earthquakes near California, start to freak out. You don't need to. The reason it's striking there, it's the fulcrum point, it's the middle point. It's the combined total between the areas on both sides. Not that big of a deal yet. But these earthquakes over here, these deep earthquakes are going to cause a new round of pressure within 72 hours to spill over to the East Pacific. But I'll be doing an update by tomorrow to address that. Now look what happened in California since last night. Wait till you guys see this. Wait until you see this, guys, since last night. Now we talked about this. The earthquake off the coast, the 3.8, right? 3.8 struck in Eureka. Look at the stack of earthquakes that occurred here at geysers, at Clear Lake Volcano. I can't even keep them on the map. That's how many I have to back it all the way out. Even then, just hundreds and hundreds of them. Now, why is a huge swarm of earthquakes breaking out at this location? Well, gee, I don't know. Could it be that there was a 3.8, 4.0 earthquake yesterday right off the coast or right along the coast near Eureka? And now it's pushing to the east-southeast and causing a kick-up in all the locations. All the swarms have kicked up. The fault zones are moving. And check it out, guys. LA was hit 1.8 and 1.5 small earthquakes. But again, it had been several days since any activity had crept up. And look at the direct line of earthquakes here. Check this out. You guys should, you should check this out. 2.9, Loma Linda, California. We're going to go open up the fault map here. Now, do you see the big red line here? I mean, there's several red lines, but the big red line is the San Andreas Fault. All right, now you see how it goes up through Santa Clarita, northeast of Los Angeles, and goes down south to Salton Sea. See that? How it cuts down through Salton Sea? All right. Now look at the earthquakes. Do you see it? From Salton Sea, and the largest earthquake of the day, by the way, at 2.7, struck south of the border at the north tip of the Gulf of California, fulfilling our forecast from 2 days ago. We put a 48-hour watch for the largest earthquake to strike, right? Okay, well, it was near 3, and it's right over the border. But look at the connecting points, guys. San Andreas, southern San Andreas, whole southern San Andreas, in the last 24 hours, has moved. Bordered on both sides by a 2.9 on one side and a 2.7 on the other. Letting you know this portion of the San Andreas is in serious flux right now. Why? Well, pressure has come down the coast. It's transferred all the way down the coast. New swarms have kicked up at all our volcanic locations, which I show every night, but I'll show you again. See this? Little Lake, California. I'll tell you this, there's not a little lake there. You want to know what's there? If you're a new viewer, you have no clue what's there. But if you're a long-time viewer, you're like, damn, Dutch, you're going to show this location again? Here, let's show it to you. Why are earthquakes striking here? Same reason the fault zone's moving, and the same reason that the geothermal operation is swarming. Look at this. It's an ancient volcano called Red Hill. Now, it's had a swarm in there in the past. You can see the cinders on the side, and it's part of the Coso volcanic field and right off of Volcano Peak within a mile. And on the flanks of Volcano Peak, you have other smaller cinder cones that have picked up the... Yes, these are lava flows, by the way. Take a look at it, okay? All right, so swarm of earthquakes breaking out there. Swarm of earthquakes breaking out down at Salton Sea. Swarm of earthquakes going up the San Andreas. Any other locations I need to mention? Oh yeah, Los Angeles. Let's go take a look at it. Beverly Hills. Up from the ground comes a bubbling crude. Hey, that wasn't supposed to happen at Beverly Hills, though. I thought they moved to Beverly Hills after discovering oil. Well, let's go take a look and see what's nearby. Is it bubbling crude? I think it is, but I don't really know. Hell, what do I know? Oh, I don't know. We got a mile away, like a few miles away, the biggest pumping operation in Los Angeles. Now, this here is a story about a man named Dutch who discovered an oil patch in the middle of the frickin' city. It causes earthquakes, and they denied it. And now you got an earthquake striking in Beverly Hills. Not trying to be too cheesy, but there you go, guys. It's not along the fault zone. It's directly related to the oil pumping operations that are nearby. We could get into this at length, but long story short, we see activity within 6 to 10 miles of the pumping operations because there's deflation and inflation that goes on when you're extracting large amounts of oil and gas or injecting. It puts hydraulic pressure on the faults. So, big pumping operation to the west-northwest, we have an earthquake. Anybody shocked? It's west-northwest. And then really, guys, once you get up into Ventura, we go a little bit north. We've got gas pumping operations up off the coast. It's kind of disgusting, actually, what's going on there. But, again, you'd say, oh, we live in Beverly Hills, we're all good. Well, the pumping operation to your south can have a direct effect. And I don't even know if there's new operations back up here in the hills. Might be. I'd have to do a detailed search and see if there's other nearby oil patches somewhere in between. Most likely there are. I mean, I know some people can drive down the street in California in certain spots and say, oh, there's that old oil well right off the side. So they used to be throughout here, and it could even be that there's an old oil operation from back in the 1920s and 1930s that exists, that's been covered up or grown over or abandoned, that exists out in these areas as well. Again, that would require detailed searching, which I'm not going to do on the stream now, but it's well within the distance, the acceptable distance for us to associate it with the pumping operation. So, fault zones, pumping operations, volcanoes, all Southern California moving right now, following that 4.8, or I'm sorry, 3.8, 4.5 is what I say it was after checking all the feeds. So, you're going to probably ask the question, what about the big swarm? I mean, the big swarm is the result of the movement pressing to the east-southeast, guys. We don't have to worry about the threat of a large earthquake on this, but this is just a sign that the pressure is transferring to the east, and people to the east-southeast probably do need to be on watch for 4.0 or greater activity in the next 72 hours. And that includes Southern California. So let's just go ahead and show you. So we have to up our threat watch in Southern California right now. Okay, so take a look at it. Here's Clear Lake Volcano. I've shown it many times. Go ahead and read it. It hasn't erupted in a very long time. Long enough that geologists felt confident enough to drill into the side of the dang volcano and inject water to produce steam, take it off via pipelines like what you enough that geologists felt confident enough to drill into the side of the dang volcano and inject water to produce steam, take it off via pipelines like what you see right here, and take it up to steam turbines to turn generators and provide power for the area. Well, on the side of Geyser Peak Volcano, on the flank of Clear Lake larger volcano, that's where the swarm is striking. Why? Well, humans have penetrated into the crust several hundred or thousand feet above a magma chamber. When pressure comes in from the west by northwest, it comes down the coast and hits that spot. And like a pressure release valve, when the pressure comes up on the underside of the geothermal operation, on the underside of the magma chamber, it causes pressure to rise at the pumping operation. That then spreads out from that location and goes down the coast. San Francisco, Hayward Fault moving. Pumping operations near Central California moving. I won't even bother showing you guys that. I show it almost every night. And then, of course, Mono Lake supervolcano moving. You guys know about Mono Lake. See all these earthquakes here? Take a look at it. Okay, at the California-Nevada border, this cluster of earthquakes on the California side and the cluster of earthquakes right across the border to the northeast. Okay, remember where those earthquakes are. Now I'm going to take you to Mono Lake and show you what's there. Okay, the cluster of earthquakes on the California side happening from Mammoth Mountain Volcano here, which is a ski resort but also a large volcano, up to Mono Lake supervolcano. This is the past blast caldera. There's a new island on the inside that's actually a rising part of a new dome forming over hundreds of years. So the supervolcano there. Then we go where? To the northeast, right across the border. And what's there? A spot I've shown many times in the past, but haven't shown in the past couple of weeks, or at least the last week, because it went quiet. But we have Aurora Crater, Aurora Peak, Mount Hicks Volcano, and the more impressive unnamed volcanic butte, where you can see the cinder and the sill where this broke out, the lava flowed out. This is 300 feet high off the desert floor, meaning that this lava flow was massive when it occurred. Doesn't even have a name associated with it. But anyways, that spot's being struck by a new swarm of earthquakes as well. Again, all these ancient magma chambers are being hit by pressure right now, coming down the coast and pushing to the east. And as if we needed any more pressure, any more evidence that pressure is transferring to the east, look at what happened at Yellowstone today. Yellowstone's magma chamber was perturbed, going from the park, western portion of the park, west into Idaho, all the way up north into Montana, and it's confirmed. The Yellowstone magma chamber is 11 Grand Canyons or more in size, and it goes up into Montana, west into Idaho. It encompasses the whole area. It's huge. And a large, not large, but noteworthy size earthquake swarm over a vast distance broke out above the magma chamber. Why? Because pressure is coming up from down below and pushing to the east. It came from off the coast. It's putting pressure on the western edge of the craton now. Now that caused new earthquakes, 3.3, 2.8 in Oklahoma at the fracking operations. Yet once again. Also, Kansas, near 3.0. So we're back into Kansas. Then check it out. East Coast struck. 2.4 at the Tennessee-Carolina border and a 0.7 in South Carolina, right along the beach. And the reason this struck, it was at 3 kilometers deep, so it's not a mine or anything like that. You go look it up. There's nothing interesting there. It's literally edge of the plate going out to the coastal plain, being struck by a small earthquake. Pressure transferring to the east off yesterday's 4.5. They went with 3.8, whatever. 4.5, 4-ish earthquake struck on the west coast, followed by mid-3 in the Midwest, and earthquakes on the east coast. Now, has anybody checked the Canadian site? I have not bothered checking it today. Let's go check the NR Canada site. Whoops. And let's just see if they have any earthquakes reported for today up in the Northeast or anywhere else that's significant. Sometimes they wait a few days before updating this for some reason. Here we are, November 4th. New Brunswick 2.0. Boom, 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 pow. Let's go show you where that is. Okay, here we are. 5 kilometer depth, 2.0 in the Northeast. Just, again, completes the forecast for what we told you to watch for yesterday. We said up at Maine into New Brunswick, right? Right? I mean, that's what I said last night. Boom. Look where it is. All right. Oh, it's in Maine. Well, Maine-New Brunswick border. That's Maine, though. That's on the Maine side of the border. But it's detected in reported out of Canada. Okay, that makes sense. USGS should be showing this to us. I wonder if it's on the USGS feed and it's just not. No, this is the USGS feed. This is USGS 0.0 and greater feed. USGS not reporting us a 2.0 in Maine, guys. Go check their website, see if it's there. Somebody in chat, go check the USGS website right now. I don't have time to do it on the live stream. And go see if they have the 2.0 listed up in Maine. If they don't, they need to be shamed. My viewers should contact them immediately. I'm on the USGS site now. Screw it, let's just go check ourselves. Okay, let's open up the feeds. Sorry guys, I just have to do this. If they're not reporting it, I'm going to bust their balls. One day, all magnitudes worldwide. Here we are. Okay, it's showing us all the earthquakes in the United States, including small explosions. Nope, they don't have it. They don't have it, guys. They're not showing it. Okay, well, you know what? This is why we need to call them out. Because if they're not going to show earthquakes striking in the continental United States, I would understand if they would try to use the excuse they can't detect earthquakes outside of the continental United States. But here we are, Northeast, being struck by a 2.0 earthquake, falling right in line with what we told you to watch for. Right in line. There was a 2.4 followed by a 2.0 up on the East Coast, and you don't get the picture because they're trying to hide it. They don't want people to know earthquakes are striking on the East Coast because they might ask the question, why? And then you go in and find out that most of your geology textbook's wrong, and they have to tear out huge sections of the textbook to explain why earthquakes are pressing across the plate. And you know what? We're already rewriting the textbook. It's just a matter of time at this point. So I'm glad I got to show you that. I'm glad I went and looked it up. Hopefully you guys saw every bit of it. You did? Good. Okay. So that all being said, one more time, guys, let's just quickly recap. Let's go down the list. Let's turn back on the combined. One other thing. Check this out. Look at this. One of my viewers made me a combined custom feed showing all the earthquakes in the Pacific Northwest that are smaller using the PNSN site, Pacific Northwest Seismic Network information, and made me a custom feed showing the last 30 days of earthquakes of any noteworthy size on the West Coast. And I can turn it down for 30 days or up to recent. Somebody made this for me, guys. And then I can click on this and it gives me the information down here in this little box. And it'll give me the time, local time, depth, everything. Isn't that wild? Isn't that great? That's good news. If my viewers can do this with a couple agencies on the West Coast, imagine what it could be if we could combine all the different agencies from around the world and get them on one feed that I could provide. Wouldn't that be incredible? I would be beyond incredible. It would be the only place on the planet you could go to get all the seismic data in one spot on a globe. Not even IRIS. So, I don't know, it would be a big undertaking, but we would have to get links to all the feeds for all the nations that provide feeds. So, you know, Mexico, all the Central American countries, South America, Brazil, Europe, Middle East, get all their seismic agencies, get their feed page, and then get my viewers to work on it and maybe figure out a way with the person who made this, how he did it, and then combine that with all the other feeds. And I've got a global feed I can show you all the smaller earthquakes on. So anyways, so you can see, I mean, check it out. This is a perfect example right here. Okay, we've got a nice cluster of earthquakes around Mount St. Helens, for instance. Take a look at this. This is Pacific Northwest Seismic Network feed. Now, you're not seeing these earthquakes listed on the USGS site as much. Why? They're microquakes occurring very close to, or very close to, Mount St. Helens. I mean, you guys know where Mount St. Helens is, right? Let's go show you. Let's go over to the west coast. Let's bring this back due north. Okay, and we're going to zoom in. Boom. Here's Mount St. Helens. Here's Mount Adams. Now let's go back over. Take a look at where the earthquakes are striking. All around Mount St. Helens. Why are we not getting the full picture on that? Well, I think they just don't want people to panic, personally. Personally. I mean, there's got many reasons, technical reasons why they might not, but I lean towards the political, just because what I've seen happen. But you can see the activity. This is very helpful from my viewers. It is, man, I tell you what, you blow me away by making that. Seriously. And my other viewers, guys, I did an unboxing tonight that was just wild. I won't even go there. It was wild. So people made me a Mount Dutch Super Volcano shirt. Check this out. Look on camera. I'm going to turn on my display picture. Look at this. Look at this. This comes from the Thompsons in Idaho. Mount Dutch Super Volcano. And then it's got a smoldering volcano on the t-shirt. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that amazing? And then they also sent a beautiful aquamarine gem for my wife, for the Duchess. So that's very much appreciated. I also got some wonderful letters and a box from someone that contains something that was just hilarious. So, or not hilarious, I'm blown away. So, anyways, much love to everybody who's been part of this. If you're over in Europe, watch for more of the same. Here, check it out, a 3.1 just hit. Okay, the most we'll go up to is 4.3 right now. The most. Why? Well, 4.3 struck to your east earlier today. That's it. That's good news. If I'm wrong, I will issue a correction and an apology, and you can beat me up when I come over to Italy. By the way, I'm going to Italy, guys. I've been officially invited over by a few people, including, apparently, I'm getting straight on this, but the mayor of the town has also officially extended the invitation. They've offered to take care of my room and board while there, and if I can get airfare over there, I'm going to try and get that squared away with my wife and get that set up to go over, and we can go inspect the fault zones ourselves. They want me to give a presentation on how to forecast an earthquake to the public there. So I'm going to do that, all right? And it's going to happen in the next few weeks, most likely, hopefully. If I can get everything squared away with my wife's job and everything, then her and I will be going over, and I will be giving a presentation on how to forecast an earthquake to the public in Italy. And it'll be open and free to the public, so maybe I'll even do it outside in the square or something. I mean, I don't know where we'll do this yet. We have a lot of details to get sorted out in a short amount of time, but I look forward to meeting William. I look forward to meeting Janet Fullerlove. I look forward to meeting the mayor of the town. I look forward to interacting with the people in Italy, where hopefully I'll have somebody that can translate for me. And I intend, when I go over, to have a video that I can play for people first, kind of like to soften them up, and it'll be translated into Italian right off the bat, so we don't have to have that translator thing going right up front. After they watch the video that's narrated in Italian, explaining everything that I found over the last several years, going back to 2010 and into 2011, that's then I come up after that video plays and give the presentation on how to forecast an earthquake, and then take questions. And do that one day that I'm there, and I'll be happy. And it will just be any seismologist or professional who wants to come and listen can. And I would expect respect and for them to allow me to do it without shouting me down and trying to stop it. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. I know the people there are open to it, and I'm perfectly willing, again, no charge, no nothing, to get this information out. I'll print DVDs on my own, hundreds of them, whatever, copies of flash drives, and we can have it ready to go for people, anybody who wants to learn how to forecast an earthquake. I will give a public presentation there running down all the points. So that's just huge news for me. I mean, guys, quite frankly, to get the offer to have an all expense paid, or not paid, all expenses taken care of, lodging and food, to come over there and do that, and all I've got to do is get over there, well, then I need to figure out a way to get over there. And I think that would be a good use, maybe for the fundraiser. You know what I mean? We'll see what it costs. But I also have some friends in the airline industry who might be willing to help if they hear that I'm going over there to do kind of a humanitarian thing for people. It won't be a vacation. Will not be a vacation. You're not going to see me going, eating gelato down in Rome with, a scooter and if I do, maybe the transportation I'll get will be a moped. All right, I could see myself riding a Vespa over in Italy. That would be the cheapest form of transportation, or a bicycle. But so for real, guys, if I can get over there soon, I'm going to. It's going to happen. I will be coming over, and when we will go inspect the fault zones that are the pictures. The pictures are amazing. Did you guys see this? Hold on. Everybody, stop. Look at the screen. I'm taking you over to my YouTube channel right now. I forgot to show this yesterday. They did a helicopter flyover of the area in Italy that we're going to be going to inspect. Now check this out. It's in my favorites. Huge earth cracks were caused by the earthquake in Italy. It's just helicopter sound, so I'm going to look at this. See this faulting that occurred on the mountain range? This isn't just a mountainside, guys. This happened along an entire mountain range. Look at that. That's from a helicopter. That's many feet across. That is like at least 3 to 6 feet of movement slide. It's not a landslide. This is a mountain range that moved. This is the plate boundary. One of the plate boundaries, a fault zone along the plate boundary. Again, helicopter video. Look at that. Look at this down here in the lower left-hand corner. Look at that, man. So if we could get up there somehow and even just inspect some of the faulting that's occurred, I intend to live stream the whole thing. I'm bringing an international phone. I will live stream from the time that I get there, and anybody who doesn't want to be on camera, I can turn the camera away, but I intend to live stream the entire time that I'm there, or most of it. So you'll know I'm not, going there to screw around or, go pick grapes in Tuscany, which would be nice on any other occasion, but not in this occasion. So if I'm coming over there, it's going to be earthquake business, baby, and we'll be getting right down to it as soon as I arrive. And for everybody who wants to make that happen, thank you to William, thank you to Janet, thank you to the people who are willing to be part of that. And I can't wait to meet the people in the Facebook group, in the Dutchsinse Italia Facebook group, in the Dutchsinse Reloaded Italia live stream page. Can't wait to meet you guys if you want to come out and come hear how to forecast an earthquake directly from my own mouth. So much love to everybody. And everybody here who's new, please subscribe, okay? Going into tomorrow in Italy, the most you have to watch for, like I said, by the end of tomorrow, we will be out of this. So most that should strike is a 4.3. You'll have a roughly 48-hour period where if nothing new strikes down in Turkey and Greece, you'll start to go back down to the 2s, maybe even go back down to 1s and 2s, maybe a few 3s. So not that big of a deal. It should slow down a little bit. Okay, that's good news. But watch to your east within 48 hours. It's coming your way from the West Pacific. You can already see it on the map here now, spreading out in all directions. It'll follow the plate boundary right over into South Europe. So good news, tomorrow, 2s and 3s. Topping out 4.3 at the most, and I don't think, if it does strike, it's not going to be a big deal. Okay, so you can finally wipe off your foreheads, dust off the shelves, maybe start to pick up some of the damaged areas a little bit more, and finally get a good night's sleep. You did last night. Got a good night's sleep. No big movement. That's good. Grazie. Tanto amore to the people there, and much love and thanks to the people on the live stream. I'm going to turn on one more thing. Take a look in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to refresh this. This is my public fundraiser page. And guys, if you like my work, no pressure, but please consider donating. There is a link down below to my fundraiser page. And I've been going on 60 days. I'm trying to raise the amount that I would make in a year's time. And I really appreciate everything that's sent. Also, thank you to the people who sent the t-shirt, the box with the shaman-like medicinal substances in them. Also, thank you to the Bushes out of Kilauea, Kona, Hawaii. And thanks to Ronan K6 YouTube channel, who sent information on his seismic drums that he has streaming on YouTube. Thanks to Wendy out of Kent, Washington, for that wonderful letter and that generous donation. And thank you to Lindsay out of Clifton Park, New York, for the cool picture and the awesome lotto tickets, which I did a video on yesterday, proving to the world, scientifically speaking, that I am one of the most unlucky people in the world. Oh, that's great. That's grand. So if you like my work, again, donation option. It's an option. I'll keep broadcasting. I'm not holding it over your head, and I bring it up at the end of the broadcast. I will never interrupt my broadcast or charge you guys for the information at a public conference or anything like that. Okay? You have my word. Peace out, folks. Much love. Have a good one. Have a good weekend and be safe. Oh, one more thing. Have an earthquake plan ready and be prepared. Southern California is now looking for an increase in earthquake activity up to the 4.0 range, 3.8 to 4. That's enough to shake things up and get people's attention. Gulf of California, 5, 5.0. Midwest U.S., your potential for a 3.8 to 4.0 still exists for the next 24 to 48 hours. I mean, I know that's not that great a movement, but it is what it is. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to have an update out for California, what to watch for the next 48 hours. And now that we have 5s already in the West Pacific, we're only looking at a short amount of time before another earthquake comes here off the West Coast and the Northwest, which we'll get into tomorrow. Don't want to count anything before it goes down too quick. And again, don't want to issue a warning 3 or 4 days out when that desensitizes people to being prepared. So by tomorrow night, we'll have a new warning out for the West Coast. I guarantee that. Okay, so any other areas that I didn't talk about? Did I miss anywhere? Caribbean. Caribbean finally swarmed out. Caribbean over at Puerto Rico going into Eastern Dominica swarmed out just as expected. 4s out here that struck a couple days ago to the west off Mexico and Central America, followed by 3s and 2s here. Eventually, we'll see another 4, mid-4 to upper 4, I should say, strike the Mid-Atlantic Ridge by tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night. No one lives there, not a big deal. Japan, you know, you're watching for the largest movement of the bunch right now. Central Japan, be on watch. Have a plan. Be prepared. Don't be scared. I'm going to end it right here. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Okay? Peace out, folks.